remember 3D mascot platformers? It all started with Mario and Sonic back when they were 2D, but it evolved from there over the console generations. Gaming was full of these cartoony characters in the genre's golden era, around the time of the PlayStation 2. There was Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Rayman, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and my favorite, Jak and Daxter, to name only a few. Gex, Bubsy, and Kaya, to name a few more. Croc, Whiplash, Pac-Man Worlds, okay, we get it. There were a lot back in the day, and back in the day wasn't even all that long ago. Unless you're like 15 years old and you think a decade is comparable to a century. Nowadays there's the new Ratchet & Clank reboot, Knack, which was terrible, and that time-traveling Sly Cooper game that ended on a cliffhanger, which the developers said they're already not giving us a sequel to. Thanks, guys. Other than that, the genre's effectively dead. It's in way worse shape now than the adventure genre ever was. That leaves a hole in the market roughly the size of a few Kickstarter campaigns, one of which is Yooka-Laylee, brought to us by Playtonic Games. Yes, this is indeed a spiritual successor on Kickstarter, brought to us by its predecessor's original creators. Don't hear that often, do we? Yooka-Laylee is the successor to Banjo-Kazooie from former developers at Rare. Rare enjoyed a long and varied history working as an independent studio and at Nintendo. Then Microsoft purchased them in 2002 and tried their best EA impersonation on them, running them into the ground before relegating them to Kinect sports titles. Banjo-Kazooie was Rare's attempt at following up their popular Donkey Kong series back in the Nintendo 64 days. The franchise never became quite as popular as Donkey Kong or Mario, but it found a place for itself, spawning multiple sequels. When Microsoft purchased Rare, they also purchased all of their IPs, including the Banjo-Kazooie franchise. It took them 8 years to revisit the bear and his birdie friend, but Rare did finally release a true sequel to Banjo-Tooie. It was called Nuts and Bolts, and it was a disaster for the series. As is often the case when a developer or franchise is bought by another company, they decided to change everything for no particular reason, and ended up breaking everything. The 3D platforming fun that made the original game so great was replaced with vehicle construction and combat, for some reason. It ended up getting decent reviews, but fans hated the unnecessary changes, and the series has since disappeared off the face of the earth. That's where Playtonic Games comes in, formed by Chris Sutherland, Steve Stephen Hurst, Mark Stevenson, and Jens Restimeyer. Each of them have worked at Rare for a number of years, and most of them were instrumental in the development of Banjo-Kazooie in the first place. Just recently they added Simon Gurgis as well, who also worked on Rare during their peak years. Yep, the band is coming back together, and they had no issue launching a Kickstarter for what is essentially Banjo-Kazooie in everything but name alone. Playtonic's new game really is just Banjo with the two main characters swapped out, and that's not me exaggerating. Playtonic wants you to know this is the true sequel to Banjo-Tooie fans have been waiting for, just with a slightly different look. Back in the mid-90s, Steve Don't Call Me Stephen Malaise came up with the famous bird and bear duo, and a platforming classic was born. Like a cyborg Indiana Jones, our heroes are equipped for adventure and, brought to life by the voice of Banjo and Kazooie himself, Chris Sutherland, you can expect plenty of cheeky and irreverent gags too. As is traditional in our team's games, each world will be jammed to the gills with oddball characters and hulking bosses, many of whom communicate via collage of burp and fart noises. Yes, the shadow of the bear hangs over Yooka-Laylee like it does over Caesar's Legion, and way more so than Castlevania and Mega Man did over Bloodstained and Mighty No. 9 respectively. Just look at how often those two are mentioned throughout the Kickstarter page. The creative talent behind Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country reveal an all-new platforming adventure. Yooka-Laylee is an all-new 3D platformer from the creative talent behind the Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong games. Our new heroes, Yooka and Laylee, are conceptualized from the ground up for stellar platforming gameplay, created by the same character artists behind the rebooted Donkey Kong family and legendary N64 heroes Banjo and Kazooie. A cast to last, a huge cast of memorable characters to meet, or beat, brought to life by the art and audio teams behind Banjo-Kazooie. Playtonic was formed in 2014 by veterans of Rare Limited. Between them, the 7-person Playtonic team has over 100 years of combined experience working on blockbuster franchises such as Banjo-Kazooie. Yooka-Laylee is a 3D platformer adventure inspired by games like Banjo-Kazooie. Even including the personal money we've already contributed, the cost for this game will be a lot less than Banjo-Kazooie on the N64 cost to make. Be coached by Banjo and Kazooie voice actor Chris Sutherland, and voice a character in Yooka-Laylee. Ugh, holy crap, guys. Playtonic obviously wants people to understand they made the Sly Cooper games, but they need to calm down a bit. You broke up with them, and it's time to move on. Not constantly talk about how much better your new Flame is compared to the old one. It's not doing anyone any favors, especially Yooka-Laylee. Hell, look how long I've had to talk about that game as opposed to the one we're currently making. And that's totally their fault, not mine. Along those lines, there's not much to say about the game itself. It's the continuation of that series. You run, jump, fly using the bat, Laylee, and collect coins. There are going to be boss fights, there'll be quizzes at the end of each level, and the characters will be speaking the same fake language done by the same guy, Chris Sutherland. When it's not trying to live up to other games, Yooka-Laylee does a good job of establishing its own merits, as we can see from the page. Using an arsenal of special moves like Yuka's tongue grapple and Layla's tactical sonar blast, players will explore and expand gorgeous 3D worlds drawn up by esteemed environmental artist Stephen Hurst. Banjo-Kazooie series Viva Pinata, and through skills discovered the plethora of delicious collectibles hidden within. An arsenal of abilities, sonar blasting, tongue whipping, sky soaring, a move roster built for platforming fun, and unlocked with added freedom. Additionally, there may or may not be a move involving a giant fart bubble. Oh goody. There's also going to be a unique world-building mechanic in which you spend a collectible called Pages to further expand levels. During their adventures, Yooka and Laylee will complete challenges to unlock and collect pages. These golden collectibles are the main currency in the game, used not only to unlock new worlds, but expand them too. In the jungle world showcased in this Kickstarter, for example, new islands containing advanced features and challenges will become available once you've decided to hand your pages over to the world-building construction crew. So it's not going to be a complete copy of that other game, though it will share some similarities. If we're being honest here, it's not like 3D platformers are known for their stunningly innovative gameplay anyway, so naturally there are going to be some similarities. As for the campaign itself, well, Banjo says a lot about that too. It was built almost entirely around nostalgia, referencing not only the Kazooie series, but also Donkey Kong and Rare multiple times. Normally propping up a campaign on nostalgia does wonders for the campaign, but doesn't really do much for the game itself. It's not a great tactic here either in the grand scheme of things. I mean, that nostalgia well is going to dry up one of these days, after all. Probably. Still, Yooka-Laylee's campaign was saved by the fact that Playtonic had plenty more tricks up their sleeves. Unlike most of the crowdfunding attempts run on nostalgia fuel, Playtonic actually had gameplay to show, and quite a lot of it from their first level. The campaign received over £2 million, that's over $3 million, which is well beyond their initial goal of £175,000 or $250,000. That's a significant boost, as it allowed Playtonic to set up a ton of stretch goals, including a boss fight on every level, a minecart section, multiplayer, and a simultaneous console release, and an N64 shader, because, of course. A big part of why they got so much money, other than the nostalgia and the gameplay, has to do with the reward tiers. These tiers aren't cheap to say the least. A physical boxed copy and a t-shirt is £90 or $142. Then there's the autographed box and poster, which costs £340 or $535. That is an insane amount for a piece of cardboard with someone's name on it, but 130 backers took them up on the offer, so, I mean, hey, it's their money, they can spend it on whatever they want. Did I mention the voice actor role for over $5,000? Yeah. 8% of their budget will be going to reward fulfillment, which might not sound like a lot, but it's actually nearly $250,000, so you can see why those prices are so high. Playtonic will be working with a publisher on Yooka-Laylee, and that's Team 17. Team 17 is the developer of the Worm series, and they've had success as a publisher in the past with crowdfunding games like Beyond Eyes and the upcoming Allison Road. As far as anyone outside Playtonic and Team 17 is aware, the publisher will only be helping with localization, console certification, and marketing, not directly funding development. They're even hoping for a physical release, though it's not official yet. Playtonic has been doing a decent job at putting out updates since the campaign's success. There's been at least one update every month since Laylee was successfully funded, except last September, up until February of this year. It has been quite some time since the last update, which was an announcement regarding new staff members and a new character. Presumably this is crunch time on the game, and maybe they're working on a demo or some kind of showcase for E3 come June, but who knows. What caught my attention and made me scratch my head a bit is the fact that since meeting its funding goal, we haven't seen any new gameplay. We've seen new characters, new bits of music and concept art, but no actual gameplay. Clearly a lot of the time was spent on the initial gameplay video and they can't just whip up a new level in a couple of months, but it would be nice to see some new gameplay, even if it is just the same level. They have produced a lot of quality updates before though, so a lot of backers are willing to let them go on this. Yooka-Laylee is set for release in October of this year. If past Kickstarters have taught us anything, it's that release date probably isn't going to happen. But you never know, and fans of 3D platformers are used to waiting by now. Trust me, I know. Last week saw some pretty big changes here on Clickist, including switching over to a new format for the site. Now it's going down about as well as a hot air balloon, because those go up. That worked better in my head. Anyway, it's not going over very well if we're being brutally honest, but it's still in its infancy stages, so expect a lot of changes over the next few weeks, including bringing back the author's bio, getting rid of all that white space and stuff like that. We've also recently welcomed on Felix Wong and Conrad Chrisman, who I've pronounced his name as Crimson half a dozen times now. We actually hired them several weeks ago, but since this is the first one of these, figured I'd welcome on board now. And I don't want to toot my own horn too much in these, but I kinda feel I have to bring up Dark Day Interactive. I wrote an article about them called The Darkest Day, and their creator has started falsely using my surname online, so that's fun. You can go check that out and more, along with the changes on our new writers at Clickist.com.